for dancing in the alleys and the streets, for the thrill and the fear of getting caught kissing, for my sister, my brother, and unity, for all the times we tried to change their minds and stale beliefs, for the loss of pride, for poverty, for the dream of just a normal life for you and me, for all the children who were starving for a loaf of bread, for the greed of politics and all the lies they spread, for all the mass polluted air we breathe, for all the litter in the streets and all the dying trees, for all the animals who suffer from elimination, for all the cats and dogs who love us without no conditions, for all the tears that seem to never end, for all the images that keep on turning in our heads, for a simple smile to last a little while, for the future generations fighting for their time, for empty promises of heaven in the afterlife, for all the imprisonment of beautiful minds, for all the babies who were born and for the ones who died, for all the times you told the truth and all the times you lied, for all the speeches that we heard about 1,000,000 times, for all the shacks and shelters that were sold to make a dime for just a glimpse of a peaceful life, for the rising of the sun after an endless night, for all the pills we pop just to get some sleep, for all mankind in our country, for all the boys and girls who never knew equality, for woman, for life, liberty. For liberty, for liberty, for liberty.
Kia ora whānau, you're listening to Voice of Araha from Wellington Access Radio 106.1 FM. We are coming here with another new episode, a new guest here joining us in the studio. But before I introduce the guest, let me introduce my co-host joining me today in the studio, Ben. Ben, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you, Codrian, for having me in. Tēnā tātou whanganui ātara. It's good to be back in the studio again. I think it's the same team as last time. And it's myself and Rata and Cody again.
Yes, and we have over Zoom Rata. Rata, how are you?
Very good, thanks. Kia ora, everyone. It's lovely to be joining via Zoom and having this hybrid opportunities. I'm very, very grateful that I could join this interview even over Zoom. So thank you so much for having me again. I'm very, very excited. How about you, Codrian?
I'm good. It was really lovely day here. So the time when this episode is out, hopefully will be sunny day. So the people listening, they can still enjoy the sun. Anyhow, it's Wellington. We love Wellington. That's why we're broadcasting from here, right?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Here we go. And Ben, I will hand it over to you because I would love to... Ben, tell us who we have here in the studio and how we can introduce her. She have too many talent and things to do. Where do we start?
I've said so many things in terms of the mahi, the resilience, the fortitude, the aspiration, the leadership. I know that word is actually like thrown about quite frequently on these days, but I do mean it. But I think it's a bit unfair for me to actually introduce. I'm going to I guess introduce yourself. Hanna, welcome to the studio. Welcome to Araha, Voice of Araha. Who are you and why are we here?
Well, kia ora everyone. I'm Hanna Habibbi and I'm one of the members of Iranian community of Wellington, as well as a recently shaped group, which is called Iran Solidarity Group, New Zealand. And who I am a 38 years old, Iranian-born, Iranian-raised, Kiwi Iranian, soon to be, so I'm a permanent resident yet. And I came to New Zealand 6 years ago, and now I am trying to amplify the voices of brave people in Iran fighting for liberty. And so since 7 weeks ago, I just all of a sudden turned to a full-on activist. Interestingly, you never know when a turning point comes your way.
Indeed.
So that is who I am. I am a public employee in New Zealand, living with my family here, loving it here, and having also feeling strong responsibility to do something at this important, significant point of time, history of Middle East for sure.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just very welcome. We have a privilege to have you here in studio, which is the reason I say that is just taking from your time from all the work you do, and also, like you said, I love that what you said, being activist in suddenly, which you don't know when things come. But that is what it is when something come to your community and you feel responsibility to act or at least help or do something about the issues. So Hanna, we kind of understand a little bit what is going on in Iran, but I think for our majority of the audience or listeners, if you give us a little bit is briefly context, like what is happening in Iran. So our audience is everyone, like any backgrounds, but if from you and your perspective as Iranian, you may know better information what's happening there. So question to you is what's happening exactly there?
Well, what is happening at the moment is a full force fight for freedom. So nearly 8 weeks ago, a young Iranian girl called a 22-year-old Iranian Kurdish girl called Mahsa Amini was arrested by a force in Iran that is called morality police. So morality police is a force shaped to impose strict dress code on the streets in an arbitrary way, just visually scanning women and the way they're dressed. And who they catch or they deem dressed inappropriately, while everybody is covering their hair, everybody is covering, like wearing something like a long coat over their clothes. Yet they have the authority to intervene, to arrest, to humiliate, to occasionally forcibly arrest and take to their detention centers for what they of re-educating. So basically educating them how to follow the rules and how compulsory hijab is the rule and is the rule of the country and they have to follow it in full. So if they're wearing their shawl too loosely, they are basically a target for this morality police. And so this 22-year-old girl was arrested by them, taken to the detention center. I have to just mention that she was just traveling to Tehran. She's from Kurdistan, and Tehran is Iran's capital. And she was traveling to capital. She was with her brother and her cousin trying to tour the city. And against the brother's will, against his trial to prevent them from taking her, they took her anyways. And a few hours later, she left the detention center in an ambulance, entering a hospital in coma, and a few days later she passed. So this sad tragedy became the spark of a movement, which everything for it was ready. So the country, people, everybody was extremely dissatisfied with in all fronts, not only economically, because some people try to make it only an economic-related matter and people who are suffering. That's just one aspect of it, which is, interestingly, a direct consequence of foreign policies or domestic policies of the leaders still. So, the society was fully ready for a spark. And the death of Mahsa Amini, the killing of Mahsa Amini became that spark. And from that moment forward, from 3 days later when she passed and her body was transferred to her hometown to be buried, in her funeral, women started taking off their hijab and shouting against compulsory hijab and against this discriminatory law and this injustice that has taken place against them. And the slogan that became the leading slogan of this movement, which is Woman, Life, Freedom, started from that funeral. Men started shouting it. And this is actually originally a Kurdish slogan. So this is not a newly born slogan. It existed among Kurds, but just started living again after this. And since then till now, it's turning to a revolution for liberty.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
a lot more has happened. If there is a chance, we can talk about many other brutal incidents just to reflect on the scale of what's taking place at the moment.
Yeah. Clearly, I think you give a good context to what's exactly happening briefly in a few minutes. I understand that days we can talk about this, but what do you tell us about this tragedy? How one incident of this woman have been? I'm sure there's hundreds of other women who lost their life before this, and even after these things. But I think that's why this kind of slogan, which is beautiful, like "Woman, Life, Freedom," or "Jin Jiyan Azadi," this is something have brought something deep issues into rise, which that you summarize in the end as a revolution. It's not just about one incident.
No.
But that tragedy have wake up and the united people, I think, to state against this kind of regime, who've been years and for many years and covering the media and like people like us or in New Zealand, which we have a little information about what is happening. Only they know that the problem is nuclear weapon or that deal is happening between US and things. But having this conversation is giving us a little bit deep that there's deep issues there that affecting the Iranian community, and the international world is not feeling about that.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that, Hanna. And then I will be maybe past, then I will come more question for you, but let me pass to my colleagues if they have any other questions. Rata, how about you?
Thank you so much for that beautiful summary of some of the most recent Iranian history, especially around the movement itself. I think it's amazing. It's really, really fantastic. So thank you. I was just wondering, compared to, you've talked really, really fantastic about how there's been sort of dissent and sort of dissatisfaction with the government for years and stuff like that. But how different do you think it is that this time the movement is being led by women in particular, as opposed to sort of just the middle classes or just sort of this, economically disadvantaged groups, that it really is women who are kind of leading the way in this issue right now?
Well, yeah, it is different, yet we could see it coming. So this has started now, but women fighting for their rights taken away from them has not started recently. However, it did became more salient over the past few years. So more and more campaigns started to shape, because when you are oppressed at such scale, it takes some time. It takes a generation maybe that was deeply scared and horrified to take a moment to step back, but that generation raised the next generation in a more demanding way. So basically, the next generation, you can, if you can follow what's happening in Iran, you can see that these are young people under 20, under 25, and these are people who were raised by those who basically were kids when the revolution took place, when the rights basically was taken away from them. So yes, it is different in a way that it is women-led, but we could see that this is coming. It was shaping. Many brave women over the past years have been detained, have been arrested, have faced unbelievable, ridiculous sentences and rulings. So we have somebody like a 22-year-old who was 23 years old when she was arrested. Her name is Saba Kordafshari. She was arrested being a women rights activist and somebody against or opposed to compulsory hijab, and she got, I guess, 20 plus years to jail, to spend in jail. And then her mother also was arrested. And this is in a country where a man can kill his daughter and face like 3 years of prison. So, I mean, that is what you expect. You expected a women-led movement out of a gender apartheid. That was expected, and it is different in different ways. I see it differently. It is different because it's happening in Iran, a country in the Middle East, a country in a region that is male-dominated culturally, or has been male-dominated culturally. However, there are changes, there are changes taking place in every single country in the region, and Iran can be or is one of the leading countries because of its sophisticated history, because some freedom was given to them at some point where when maybe the country and nation wasn't ready for it. And then yet they tasted it no matter how new it was or how overwhelming it was at the point. Yeah. But they took it and they tasted it. So this nation knew freedom to some extent, not political, social freedom. And then it was taken away from them, from something that they trusted, from religion. They did trust their clergymen. And that's why they took over. And then they were proven that that was the biggest mistake they made. And this sort of fireback after many years of oppression was expected, and actually can be can bring hope to the region.
It was a fantastic answer. Thank you so much, Anna. You talked fantastically. I really, really appreciate the revision on remembering all the history of Iran and remembering, in particular, the secularization that sort of took place across the country, and sort of how much of a significant social change that was from the Muslim culture, which had been very pervasive and widespread, to the Pahlavi regime with Pahlavi dynasty, rather, with much more secular way of being and stuff like that. Just wondering. It's a big question. If sort of what the aims of the movement are now, and I guess, as you said, when you had the 1979 revolution, there was the clergy were the people who were trusted, and so when there was this power gap, it was the clergy who came in and took over the regime for the country. What do you hope to happen now, and how will we know that there will be positive changes for the future if there is a regime change for Iran? What are your hopes for the movement?
Well, this is a great question. And to answer to this, I have to start with the fact that Iranian opposition at the moment is pretty divided, yet they all are united in wanting secularism. So this 43 years of a religious theocracy acting as a democracy, playing with people's hopes, playing with people's trust in what they did and the revolution they shaped, has taught them just one lesson, most important, two lessons basically, that to stay away from religion and to, no matter in what shape, establish a democracy. A democracy that is well thought through, a democracy that is well monitored, well established, and which is independent, which follows clearly reviewed constitution, that doesn't allow for the shaping of any power, even those who are asking, interestingly, even those who are asking for constitutional monarchy and believe that a king should be there as a symbol or whatever, they are still asking for full secularism and full democracy, even under that ruling system. So they're just looking for probably a symbol or whatever. So we are divided. Some are looking for a republic democracy. Some are some have the interests of minorities and different ethnicities that we have within Iran into their consideration, and perhaps maybe they have something like a federal system or something in mind. But we all are united against anything related to religious. So we want religion to become a private task, just to be for people. And we're looking to replace the system with a democracy. So this is coming, interestingly, from some maturity taking place. So over these years of being played by such a sophisticated, playful regime. So when you're dealing with such sophisticated regime, you learn to be sophisticated because that's the only way you can survive. You learn to basically read their hand because that's the only way you can survive. And this has been some sort of intensive course for Iranians. Over the past 43 years, they've learned way more than a normal nation can learn in 43 years. And that's why you're seeing these shifts. When somebody asks me whether this movement succeeds, my answer is that the revolution has already taken place in people's minds and beliefs.
Yes.
We have a generation that's aware. We have a generation that knows what it wants. And it's beautifully summarized in 3 words. They want equality, which is covered under the word woman in their slogan. They want to live a happy life, and that's life. And they want freedom, and that's democracy. They're just saying it out loud, clearly in their slogans. They are getting killed for it and not backing off. So if you ask me, this time is definitely different. And it is women-led. However, we have to really emphasize the importance of men supporting that. Our men are not against us. Our young men are standing next to us. They're supporting this cause because this is also their request. So I hope that answers you.
That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Not only was it a really, really great breakdown of the different sort of social and political movements going on, but it was also very, very inspiring. So thank you so much for that. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'll pass it on to you, Ben, now. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Rita. I love that kōrero. I just want to follow up with that. And I acknowledge the movements, the young people are actually, the Gen Z are actually activated. They've always been active. They've always protested or actually highlighted these inequities in one way or another in form of art, music, culture, minor little defiance here and there, because that's what people actually thrive for. Life, what you just said, it's just normalcy of, and it's not. This is not alien. Sorry, I talk about the culture as if I'm actually part of it. I am passionate about it, and part of this, what I wanted to sort of follow up on that is, how do you see that sort of almost radical activism, which is actually quite infectious and invigorating, because defiance in the face of like what you could actually face, and death is actually like the ultimatum. A lot of things actually happen to you in between, and we see it through many different people who've actually like passed, and the families as well. So I just giving a context and sort of a follow-up to people in New Zealand, how would you like that movement to be translated so that people are actually aware and understand a bit more what's actually happening right now? What would you like to see in terms of raising awareness and that activism actually coming to the forefront of New Zealand society?
Well, I think we are living in a world where public attention has the potential of leading or creating actions, practical actions. Actually, ironically, a part of my PhD thesis was on this. So knowing nothing related to these things, 5 years ago, I was working on a thesis which was assessing public opinion. And I compared the reaction to the same natural-led disaster in a Western country with another country. And what I saw was crazy difference, significant, massive difference between the attention that the same event, even in smaller scale, received from that was happening in a Western country compared to the one that happened in another country. I guess it was like South American, this second one. And I remember usually it's common when you conduct such research to make policy recommendation. And I remember that I came up to a conclusion that it wasn't I couldn't make policy recommendation. I just could make public recommendation. So I just could recommend people that this is the world of social media. This is the world that you can make noise, and action follows the noise. So if you want to make a change, you have to get on board, raise your voice in any possible way you can. And so that's what we are doing. What we are doing is we're amplifying voices. What people in Iran are doing are using every fraction of freedom to send the message out, to show their bravery, which is impressive. What we want to see is action eventually. This regime has proven to know nothing but force, not to respond to anything but force. They don't know negotiations, they don't know reforms, they don't know any sign of, peaceful way of convincing, but they understand pressure.
Yes.
So what we want from people is first to care, to hear us out, to hear our messages. This is the era of social media.
Yes.
It's not that difficult to gain some information. Just simply type Iran on your Explorer and you'll get a lot of information. Follow one hashtag, simple Mahsa Amini hashtag, and you'll read a lot. You'll see a lot.
Yes.
Follow that, and that is the next step after you care. So when you care, then you can be aware. And after you're aware, you can drive action. You can write to your MPs. You can support our cause. And this is an important cause. Again, It's women-led. If you're a feminist, if you care about equality, if you care about children's rights, human rights, women's rights, whatever you care about, whatever values you have, this one has it in it. So please, that is what we want to see. And that's basically what we are doing.
I absolutely, you've got a way of actually like shaping these or framing this in a way it's actually quite concise. It's actually, I can see how you did that with your PhD. So, which I probably might dig that up actually.
Yeah. I guess it must be somewhere presented in a conference or in a seminar. So I guess you can find it on Google Scholar. Just Googling my name probably.
I'll definitely do that. I just had a quick follow-up about that. And part of the action which you just spoke of is actually the sanctions which are actually like imposed by various countries in terms of like trade. I know the majority of the time Iran has still got allies in Turkey, Russia, etc., who have actually either abstained or still actually providing some sort of assistance in one way or another. And part of that, so the sanctions actually come down into the people who are actually everyday people who are actually living day-to-day life, quality of life in terms of economics. That is what's been the burden. Now, I know the international community is actually, again, thinking about doing another. Do you think that's actually quite beneficial in terms of adding pressure, or is it just going to further sort of add pressure to the day-to-day economy, which is actually...
Yeah, that is true, but we're not asking for sanctions on the country. We're asking sanctions on officials. We're asking sanctions on IRGC. IRGC is Islamic. It doesn't even have the word Iran in it. Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. These are the troops, the armed troops, the quite literally economic cartel of the country they have been benefited from the sanctions more than anyone else. Because that basically has provided them with the opportunity to sink in their corruption, to steal as much as they can in every front. So that's why they never wanted an end to the sanctions.
Yes.
Why do you want anything that can disturb your business? So we are asking them to be sanctioned. We are asking them, after turning Iran to such a hell for its own people, to go and seek a safe haven in countries like New Zealand or Australia, after countries like the US and Canada have already sanctioned them.
Yes.
So they don't have a place there. These are extremely powerful, resourceful, rich, corrupt people. This is a rich, corrupt entity. They are harmful in every possible way if they ever step in these countries and find a platform for themselves. I really hope they don't have it already, but New Zealand needs to realize their danger. Yes. New Zealand needs to realize that these are sophisticated, trained people who are capable of terror. That is who they are. They're terrorists, and the world needs to finally come to this realization and to realize them, to recognize them for who they are and take a practical action. This is not a time to hesitate, because at the end of the day, it's going to be such a pricey hesitation. So that is the message we're sending. Yeah.
Just a very, very brief bit. Oh, sorry, I was sorry. I think I jumped in front of Cody.
No, I just really love the kōrero here. You just go ahead. I have 2 questions in my mind. Can write them, because she tapped in a very, very important message.
Yes.
So, but after you, I will go ahead.
No, I was just going to have a quick, brief answer. Are you happy with New Zealand's response to the atrocities, which was actually now finally being acknowledged, but in general, the response, are you happy with New Zealand's response?
No, not yet. We're not happy with it, absolutely. We are happy that we are being received, our message is being received, they're considering it. We are thankful that today, actually, we got the chance of meeting with the Foreign Affairs Minister, and we had like a quick chance of meeting Prime Minister. And before they actually make a decision or talk to their advisors, they decided in an unprecedented way, which needs to be praised, to meet us, who know the matter much in a much more holistic way, basically. Yes. So we do appreciate these, but again, we need New Zealand alongside the rest of democracies to realize that they have been played by this regime for such a long time. And there's no shame in that. We, the people, were played by them for a much longer period. Today I told them that this country is called Islamic Republic, and it's neither Islamic. This regime is neither Islamic nor Republic. This is not a matter of religion. Iranian people are not fighting Islam, are not fighting religion. They are fighting for the choice of practicing their faith the way that they want to, simply. Yet this regime is absolutely using religion as a blanket cover to all their crimes. Yeah. So this is something that this is a message we really need to get out, especially to our Muslim community. Yes. We are not enemies. If we go in front of Iran's embassy and burn headscarves, we've never done it. We haven't done it anywhere else. You have noticed we didn't do it in Cuba Street in front of Parliament. Yes. I don't know, in anywhere else. We did it in front of Islamic Republic of Iran's embassy. Why? Because that is a sign of oppression. Yes. Because our women are killed for that. So we burnt our flag as well. Do we hate our country? No, we did that as a sign of protest. We burnt a passport. That was a sign of protest. So this is an important thing, and I really hope that through this interview, this talk, our Muslim community hear me out. We are not the enemies here. We're not fighting Islam. Nobody in Iran wants to fight Islam. We have parents, family members this is their choice. They want to cover their hair. We have many people who are not covering their hair, yet they do practice. It's not a matter of how you practice your religion. You have to have the freedom and be respected for that. And that is what we're fighting for.
Amahinui. I'm absolutely, you've encapsulated that. Thank you so much for that, kōrero.
Thank you so much for
Sorry, Cody, I've jumped in.
That was great. Actually, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, but you just tapped in greatly and you explained it beautifully.
Thank you.
Because actually, even our platform, Voice of Araha, we have faced those attacks because we've been supporting a lot of posters out there. So they were accusing us that we are supporting a protest who's anti-Islam, which I think I don't want to add to what you have already explained beautifully about that this protest is not about against religion.
Just let me quickly add something.
Yeah,
this regime, week after week, is attacking Friday prayers in Sistan Baluchistan in Iran. People who are coming back from their Friday prayers are being mass shot, are being killed at scale. What sort of religion or what sort of religious regime is this one? We are as sad for our brothers and sisters in Balochistan as we are sad for Mahsa Amini. One of them wants freedom, practice his religion to the fullest possible way. We stand by him as much, we love him as much as we love our girls who choose not to wear a hijab. I mean, we are in 21st century. Why should somebody get lashed because of drinking a beer?
Yes.
I mean, what sort of message is there in that? We are just advocating for freedom. That's all. We respect every religion's out there, particularly Islam, because that's a part of our culture. So I really hope that this message, I don't know how it's getting, people are getting confused around it. I seriously can't see it, but it may be because I'm just in the center of all the information.
Perhaps that's just the clarity. I don't know how much clearer it could be, and clear as Chris. No, Mihi, I really talk with that. So, thank you. Sorry, Rata.
Thank you so much. I think you touched on a number of huge issues that have, as you said, have been confused in the past. And I think that you did an unbelievably beautiful job explaining those. So thank you so much. It was really, really beautiful to hear.
Thank you.
Just one of the things I remember hearing about, which is a little bit sad, is that unfortunately issues like this, I've heard critiques of, have been opportunities by often countries or sort of the stories and sort of media of nations and stuff in the West in particular to sort of go, oh, okay, here's this these negative things happening in Iran or in these Middle Eastern countries in particular, and then attribute these faults to Islam. So I think it is really, really powerful that, particularly that it's being done by women who, as you say, by everyone, but as you say, who aren't saying we're not fighting with Islam here. That's not what's going on, and really just to sort of get the record straight. And there's also been, I think, a little bit of a discourse of sort of white saviorism and sort of Orientalism and things like that coming in. Okay, here's these sort of victimized countries where these women are having to do all these things and stuff like that. And so it's just, I think it's really powerful hearing these stories amplified from your perspective and from the perspective of people who are really living these things and saying we've always been activists here. There've always been people who have been wanting change and wanting generational change. So thank you so much. It's fantastic to hear that. Hopefully it doesn't get too confused. My only other questions really were, what would you like to see New Zealand do in response now? So what's the response you want from us, and what do you hope to happen in the next couple of weeks?
Well, what we ask from New Zealand is to join the other democracies around the world and to stand by its values, which is having respect for human rights, women's rights, and children's rights, and to recognize its violation and to respond. So as I mentioned, I don't want to call it even Iranian, Islamic Republic regime is basically has proven to respond to force. Actually, one of the reasons that we think extremely high, but the death toll to stay around 300 over 8 weeks is that the world is watching. It pains me to say that it stayed low, 300, but I'm comparing it with the previous protests in November 2019, in which in 2 weeks, 1,500 people were killed. Yeah. So we have to continue watching. And what we want from New Zealand government is to, first of all, to expel the ambassador, as I mentioned today also in my meeting, for our safety reasons. Yes. We are the Iranian community, active Iranian community in Aotearoa, New Zealand. This is a small country. We are a small community. It's extremely easy for us to be identified. Yes. It's extremely easy for us to be framed. And it's extremely easy for one of us to arbitrarily be chosen and face something extremely horrific to be set as an example and fear the rest. Yes. So we really don't feel secure while that embassy is open, that ambassador is in power, having political immunity, having such capacity that he has in this country while we are literally risking our safety. And we have families back home. Yes. And they're at risk too. So we really don't want them and their resources here. So that is the first request. And that's a very justified... This is an important reason. We're not making stuff up. there is actual fear of having spy in our gatherings, in our private chats. We hear each other out talking about who was that guy who was taking photos? Is that guy a spy of the Islamic Republic? Because they have a platform here. So yeah, there could be spies among us that are being financed by them or supported by them. Yeah. So that is the first request. And the byproduct of it will be a political message. Expel the ambassador, that will send a political message to Tehran that there are consequences for what you're doing. That's the first. And the second one, I went through it. The IRGC and officials who are involved in the brutal crackdown of people, they need to be sanctioned. These people need to find nowhere to run away with their monies and have a happy life after causing such a hell for a nation, keeping them hostage. Which country will punish you by basically banning you from leaving that country? They know what the hell they've turned Iran to. So if they want to punish a celebrity who's supporting us, they'll not allow the person to leave the country. This is ridiculous, but it's happening. So yeah, we want to see officials and IRGC members, high-ranked officers to be sanctioned, to be banned from ever stepping into New Zealand, ever interfering with the peace of this beautiful country which we love. And from there forward, we really hope a joint action from democracies force the regime to compromise or to step down at the best.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely incredible. Pass back on to Coach Irene. Thank you so much for that beautiful explanation. I hope New Zealand does follow all of your recommendations. I'll be looking to support as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Radha. And that was so beautiful. Thank you, Hanna. And I can add my voice to your voice. The ambassador, hey, you are listening now. Get out. You're not welcome here.
Amen.
Because
Mr. Mufata, it's time to pack and leave.
Yes.
Pack and leave. And we can pay for the ticket?
Yes.
I think you need donations.
We'll have a whip around, honestly. Yeah. I'm sure we can actually send him in a cargo.
Or actually, he has another choice. He can resign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Or join our community here and support
if he loves
evolution.
New Zealand so much, he can resign and stand next to people.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Exactly. New Zealand is a welcoming country, and political asylums are actually always welcome. So, if the ambassador wishes to do so, this is the best place to do it.
So there we go.
Yeah. It's his chance.
Harimai.
Welcome. Because always when in Voice of Araha we are a platform built to welcome refugees and migrant, all different voices to this beautiful country. I think this is the first time to tell someone you're not welcome, but he deserves to tell. Unless if he want, like he said, resign and join the community here and join the rights of people.
I just want to add a tiny thing. I was telling my husband this yesterday, I've never been in any position in my life that I can see the difference between black and white this clearly. I really can't see any gray area. In everything in life, you can see like, okay, that's the gray area. Things are like in between. There is no in between anymore. We are talking about right and wrong, completely clear, crystal clear. So I'm like, you just need to look at those people who are killed, who lost their lives. Listen to them, listen to their voices, and then also listen to the other side. Listen to the other side, and then it's like... There's no gray area. Whoever who's in the dark side would just the only chance is to just move to our side. That's it.
And history will be the judge of that. And history is watching. Your future generation is watching. Your ancestors are watching.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Sorry,
Nana, all good, bro. So we are having the last few minutes. Yes, just 4 minutes. Do you want to? Yes, we will give a final words, of course. Otherwise, another revolution will start. Which I can do.
Absolutely. You wouldn't even want to do that.
Do you have another questions, team?
I've got millions of questions. So I think we need to do an hour. I feel a bit bad about a short of time because I do want to talk about there's so many things. The music. I've got I've got 4 pages of like notes, which I wanted to. The poems, the music has come about, the wording, and how that's actually invigorated and mobilised people. The reception in terms of the flag, which we actually see, and I wanted to talk about a funny story which I had, but we haven't got time.
Which that's something I need really is important to touch base.
I know the story.
You touch base, Hannah, about
Please don't tell anyone.
safety, right?
Yes.
And that's really here's a message also for people and police and all agencies listening to it. That's really concerning.
Yes.
Because safety is number one, and what you touch by is that still the families, Iranian community, not feeling safe because of having this embassy here.
Yep.
So there's possible to do anything, which is already we as a platform or we community, we know the stories of people being online attacked.
Yes.
And we know stories being followed to their door, and there's all of these things happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think also another message that we are sending to officials in New Zealand maybe that to really take this concern seriously.
Yeah.
Because it's happening, and we want to make sure all our fans from Iranian and also who are supporting them, they feel safe in this beautiful country, to take necessary actions.
Yes.
Which is, one of them, like you said, if you have someone who's operating here,
Yes.
their house is here for the regime, I think all information is whatever, even they are listening now to this, they can take it to back home, etc. Follow it later. So I think that is the New Zealand to be aware why is necessary what you said about to take this ambassador or embassy out. At least they repent and come back to the people.
Can I just say,
Yes,
let this be a reminder. And March 15, some of the Muslim women, in terms of talking about attacks, and you said, we told you this.
Right.
We told you this to the police, the security agencies and the counterterrorism, etc. We told you this. We showed you the letters that were actually sent. We sent you. And I don't want this to happen here. And IRGC's arm is actually quite, they've got the funding, the means, and they've actually demonstrated this in Syria, Yemen, you name it, and anywhere else. New Zealand government really needs to take heed. This is happening, and we don't want it to happen here.
No, it is serious. We're not just asking for something to make the community feel good. We know what's taking place. IRGC downed a commercial airplane in the sky of Tehran with 176 innocent people on it, many of them children. Why? To possibly count it on the US in some sort of expected reaction from the US.
Yes.
Then when we say terrorists, we're not joking around it. Yes. Actually, the word is not powerful enough to describe them. So please take this seriously, because it is serious.
Yes. Yeah, I think you say it, and just told me I'm from the same region. I hope that regime comes so my country is safe as well.
The world will be much more beautiful without this regime. Trust us. It's a good cause for the world.
100%. If your team have a last question or quick things you want to add?
I just want to say thank you, Hannah. I know how much the amount of organisation, time and effort and family life commitment work. I mean, I could go on for days, and you always take it on your stride. And despite your community, your leadership, your voice, your face, despite what you actually face, has been absolutely phenomenal. And thank you so much on a Wednesday evening on a short notice to actually, little old us here in the community radio. Thank you so much for coming and having this conversation. I just would like to implore you to come back and let's talk about some of the inspirations. But let's talk about the poets. I want to talk about the Iranian women poets and what's the words that actually inspired them, the music, and the significance of the flag, which I was actually wearing. So sorry, I think I'm actually eating into the time again. So please do come back to us.
Absolutely, it's going to be my pleasure, and thank you so much for having me. For sure, we can. I can talk about Iran forever, so it's my pleasure.
Rata?
just again want to thank you and everything Ben said more. It's been so fantastic having you, and but more importantly, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing and the inspirational example that you are to all of us, and not only just standing up for human rights in Iran, but really as a global leader and on what is right and standing up for truth and justice. So thank you so much. It's been fantastic meeting with you, and I hope everything goes as well as possible. And thank you so much for this interview as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before I do the closing one, Hanna's mic to you, and message for you for the audience. You have 1 minute.
Well, I just can ask you to join us. That's the only thing that I can ask, because I know the audience is people, and this is an important, beautiful cause. This is a historic moment. It's a significant moment in the history. So join us. It's for women. It's for life. It's for freedom. It couldn't get clearer. That's all we are asking for.
Thank you again for listening. Keep following our social media to know for our next guest, next episode, and next speaker coming to this platform. Kakite, and have a good day.
برای توی کوچه رقصیدن، برای ترسیدن به وقت بوسیدن، برای خواهرم، خواهرت، خواهرامون، برای تغییر مغزها که پوسیدن، برای شرمندگی، برای بیپولی، برای حسرت یک زندگی معمولی، برای کودک زباله‌گرد و آرزوهاش، برای این اقتصاد دستوری، برای این هوای آلوده، برای ولیعصر و درختای فرسوده، برای پیروز و احتمال انقراضش، برای سگهای بیگناه ممنوعه، برای گریه های بیوقفه، برای تصویر تکرار این لحظه، برای چهره ای که میخنده، برای دانش آموزا، برای آینده، برای این بهشت اجباری، برای نخبه های زندانی، برای کودکان افغانی، برای این همه برای غیر تکراری، برای این همه شعارهای تو خالی، برای آوار خونه های پوشالی، برای احساس آرامش، برای خورشید پس از شبای طولانی، برای قرصای اعصاب و بیخوابی، برای مرد میهن آبادی، برای دختری که آرزو داشت پسر بود، برای زن زندگی آزادی، برای آزادی.